Good evening and welcome to Awakening Wednesday. My name is Gina Walker. I am the musical director here at Universal Spirit Center, and also I facilitate Wednesday evenings, the midweek Get Your Groove On Connection. So grateful to have you here this evening to be able to participate and play with me. And whether you're here live right now or not, whenever you tune in, I'm grateful for your presence and your beingness right here, right now. So, as we always do, let us get started with an opening prayer. Let's see, So as we breathe in right now, we breathe into the divine. We breathe into this moment of receptivity, this moment of divine appreciation, this moment of all is well. We breathe into that here and now, recognizing that this flame of truth is lit within each and every one of us. And it is in this divine space that we are open to receive, we are open to give, we are open to explore, we are open to know that when we see the things that do not open our hearts, that there is still a connection there. So as we are embraced in this divine time right now, let us know this. Let us know that in this divine moment, the only thing that's going on is the infinite intelligence, the divine one, infinite source through each and every one of us. Thank you, Father, Mother God. Thank you, infinite intelligence. Thank you for this divine moment. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we just breathe that in. So tonight, we are talking about the sport of life, how the competitive love between the ears and the connection of sports and spirituality, or spirituality and sports, the spiritual essence of sports, and how it is a fantastic tool to embrace us deeper in our own spiritual connection. I know. And you don't have to like sports. It's not so much about liking sports. However, I do love sports. Those of you that know me know that I do. But it is for one of these reasons that it takes me deeper that I enjoy sports. So we'll just kick it off with a little video. So, one of the things that I wanted to share, well, there's a few stories that these stories are about sports, and the connection for me with sports and spirituality is this divine presence that you get the opportunity to see. Unlike the same thing when you see a painting that moves your heart in such a way, or you hear a song that opens you up to a greater divine, or you hear someone sing something that just calls you to a higher connection of you. And so with sports as well, these opportunities are there constantly. You know, so many athletes have rituals, kneeling before, some rub chalk on their hands depending on the sport, turn left, turn right. There are a lot of different, some wear the same socks if they're on a winning streak, a lot of rituals. But also what athletes really have in common is practice. The practice, good athletes have the practice. Great athletes believe in the practice and have a meditative practice where they actually see the outcome that they are working towards. And so this repetitive process that affords them this connection in ways that we get to be a part of, we get to see with our eyes when this connection happens. And there's a popular phrase called in the zone. He or she was in the zone. And it's a beautiful thing to see, as well as when they get kicked out of the zone. It calls to me to remember that at any given time, I can choose to be in the zone. And whenever I'm out of the zone, the moment I awake in that time, meaning not sleep, but sleep to what I am participating in, sleep to how my energy is unfolding, sleep to the frequency that I am in alignment with. The moment that I awaken and realize that I am sleepwalking, that I am participating mentally and physically now in something that no longer supports my highest and best good. And if it did, if I have stayed in it sometime a day at a time, week at a time, weeks at a time, months at a time, years at a time. But whenever you awaken, you can practice something different. And it is a practice. The discipline of athletes and opera singers is intense. The commitment that's made to the practice a lot of times is the difference between good and great. But there's also that believing aspect, that there is a belief in you beyond what anything or anyone says. Muggsy was a basketball player who was very short. I think he was maybe 5'7", 5'8", maybe. And for a professional NBA player, that's just not heard of. But he was in the NBA. He did what everyone said could not be done and did it very, very well. The belief that he had within himself did not limit his abilities to his height. So he found other ways to be very competitive. He was tenacious on defense. And he was quick. And believe it or not, he had jumping skills that I believe I saw him dunk one time. But his entire being was that he was a basketball player. This is what he chose to be, how he chose to live his life, and he was an NBA player. He played for the Charlotte Hornets. They drafted him first, if I remember correctly. Amazing. So some of the stories that I want to share tonight are actually ones that I remember from my own personal experience of watching. And sports and life are such a connection. They create community, even though sometimes people get a little rowdy, get a little angry, but it does create community. It brings people together. And I really appreciate all sports. Once this trigger went off where I could see the presence of spirit working in and through somebody, or in the zone, as the sportscasters would say, it was so phenomenal to see it, to see this energy that was clearly present and palpable. And yet, there wasn't a sign that you could see. It was something that I felt innately. And I saw within the athlete a performance that was beyond words. So one of the first ones that I'm going to share, I didn't know this when I looked it up, just to get clear on some of my facts, because I didn't want to embellish. Well, maybe just a little. It was the U.S. Open. And I didn't realize it was in 2008 on this day. And it was Tiger Woods and Rocco Media. They had played the full 18 holes. Now, Rocco was ahead, and ahead in the championship, that if Tiger had missed one hole, Rocco would have won. But Tiger bogeyed the last hole. And the U.S. Open, that meant that Tiger and Rocco tied. So the U.S. Open had them play a full 18 rounds as a playoff. I do believe that's changed now. But this was in 2008. And Tiger was having some physical things that were starting to show up. If I remember correctly, he was having a little lower back issue. And so when the match starts, Rocco tees off, and it's a ball that hits off into the woods. It goes foul. So now you can see Rocco looking at Tiger in this a little bit of fear, because remember, he was one hole away from winning it, and he would have been the oldest player to ever win the U.S. Open. But he was playing against a man that knew and claimed his destiny that day. And so Tiger hit off. He hit a little bit off of the fairway, but still, as they call it, in a good line for him to get the ball up on the green. Rocco, coming out of the woods, gets it back into the fairway. And they're battling, and you see Tiger starting to limp a little bit. And one of the things I noticed first was that Rocco was so involved with what Tiger was doing and how he was hitting the ball. You could just feel from him that he was so afraid of what Tiger was going to do. And that made me think that when we are involved in our life, sometimes the experience, the process, the journey, whatever we're going through, we get so involved in what is that we forget about this invisible presence that doesn't need the facts from what is, that doesn't need to be qualified. It only needs us to give it our attention. Now, Tiger Woods, his entire game was totally on him. He didn't even look at Rocco's way when he got up to tea. He would be messing with his bag or talking to his caddy or looking in a different direction. He did not give Rocco any attention whatsoever. And I believe it was right around the 14th or 15th hole that you could see, and even the broadcasters said, uh-oh. They said, uh-oh, because everybody now feared for Rocco. You could see that Tiger had hit a groove that he claimed that championship on that 14th hole. It was amazing to see. Now, had he won it yet? No. But you could see by the way he strutted, you could see by the way he would swing that he was in a different groove. He was in a zone all his own. While when you looked at Rocco, Rocco was looking at what is, that Tiger was up by one stroke, that could I come back and beat him, and oh, I had it yesterday. You could see all of these things, or you could feel them just pulsating from Rocco. And so looking at the difference when you are focused on the presence and when you're focused on what is, the distractions that take you, Tiger, even though whatever was happening with his back, you could see that even by the 14th hole, he would not allow that to take his attention away. There was this glide and flow in his walk, and there was an ease about him. There was a confidence, whereas Rocco was scattered. He hit another shot off into the weeds. And you could feel desperation. When we are spiritually in alignment, there is no room for desperation. There is no room for even paying attention to what is, because our whole flow, and it is a flow, and it's beautiful, and we've all felt it before. And looking at sports, seeing that, it burst my heart open. That I was like, wow, I can see the difference. I can feel it. I have felt both of those moments. I'm sure we all have. We have both felt those moments where we have been in such alignment and in flow. It just seems like it's, you like to say the word like magic. So now Tiger is up by 2 strokes. And the body of Rocco Media started to slump. He looked dazed and not focused. You know, when we allow the world to become our guidance, we allow the world to become our truth. I love Abraham Hicks, and one of the things they shared with me that has always come back to me time and time again is that my truth is different from your truth. Your truth is different from my truth. But it doesn't make either one less true. Such power that filled my heart with recognizing that we all have a truth. And one truth doesn't trump another. And I know some may not believe that, but boy, when I understood that, because there are times that we battle with the world because I'm right. No, I'm right. But what if we're both right? At the place and time where we're at. Now, for Rocco, his truth was, I was ahead yesterday. I had this, I knew it, I could feel it. How did Tiger come back and tie me? But they started both at an even level. Yet his truth was focused on yesterday. And that truth came into today. It came into his today, where now he's playing from yesterday. Tiger was playing in the moment. And when he was walking toward the 18th hole, he being Tiger Woods, everyone knew it. You could feel it. There was a miracle outside chance that Rocco could. He had, I think, to birdie the last 2 holes. And the way he had been driving, it seemed like a mountain too tall. And sure enough, it was. Tiger won the U.S. Open. Elated and happy, but there was a certainty that he knew. Tiger used to say that he had the mental capacity that no one could break it. These were times before his dad made his transition. He said he was mentally so tough, nothing could get in his way. And during his reign as a champion, that absolutely was true. I think he was number 1 for over 500 days, maybe 700. I saw it and I was like, wow. Amazing. Now, one of the other stories, tennis. And I love because these came up for me and I remembered the stories because of what took place. That it was so phenomenal to see this spiritual presence, this zone playing out in front of all of us to see. A reminder that anyone at any time can get into their zone. And this was Wimbledon, 2005. Lindsay Davenport and Venus Williams. Lindsay, if I remember correctly, was ahead in the challenges that she had won maybe 14 times playing Venus to Venus 10 or 12, something like that. And this was for the championship. Venus had beaten Maria Sharapova, who was the last year, the reigning championship. And so it was a beautiful day in England. The sun shining, and the court was full. There's something that I did not know. I didn't know that it took place on that particular match. Venus Williams was also very well, of course she's known for her tennis, if you follow tennis at all, but she was also well known to be one of the women tennis players that fought for equal pay for tennis players. And on that day before her match, she had gone to the main office to have this conversation that women should be paid equally as men. It's mind-blowing, mind-blowing. And so now you have this match that's taken place. And in the first set, Lindsay is beating Venus easily. It's an easy match for Lindsay. She's just moving through the points. Venus seems like off her game, but knowing this now, that she had just that day been in a conversation about women having fair pay as tennis players. What amazing thing that is to do on this big day, on this field. And so you see Lindsay is just at peace. Every time she opens her racket, it's with such ease and flow. And Venus is not totally frustrated, but you see her trying to figure out what's happening. So in their second set, Lindsay's up again. She's ahead something like 4-3. And Venus fights back, and it goes to a tie break, and Venus wins the second set. Now, the women, you have to win the best 2 out of 3 games in order to win. So now they're tied a set apiece. And once again, Lindsay is taking off. You know, one of the things, when you are sure of yourself, when you are just like, I got this. And what was so interesting, I'm a huge Venus fan, and I do enjoy Lindsay, but I was definitely pulling for Venus Williams. Come on, Venus, you can do it. Come on, Venus, you know, that the whole camaraderie as though you're on the court with them. And that reminds me as well that we are in this spiritual vortex of creating together. That my creation never has to thwart your creation, but it is one that can work together if we find harmony. So as I'm watching Venus try to find her game, as they call it in tennis, she's trying to find her game. She's trying to get the flow of her swing and serving. Venus had a killer serve, and her serve wasn't supporting her the way it was. And so midway through this final game, this final set, Venus began when they would, after a point was won and they got a break, and she'd go and they go and sit in their chair, she would put a towel over her head for the entire time that they had the break time. She would put this towel over her head. You couldn't see her face because the cameras are everywhere, but she would cover up. She would cover herself up. And then when time was called, she'd come out. And as it appeared as though Lizzie was right on the cusp, Venus would snatch it. And she won another game. And so Lindsay had, and this is what was so amazing about this third set. You have to win 6 games, and you have to win by 2 points. So Lindsay had won 5 games to Venus's 3 games. So everybody's like, Lindsay's just got to win 1 more game. She's got to win 1 more set. She's done. Not game, 1 more set. So it's 5-3. Now Venus breaks Lindsay's serve. It's 5-4. You see Lindsay getting a little unsettled. Venus is still, every time they go to the chair, towel is over her head. She's disconnected from anything that's happening around her. It's just her within that towel. Now you see Lindsay Davenport starting to get doubtful, anxious. Have you had those moments in your life when you doubt yourself, when the appearance of what's happening, once again, is where all of your attention is? Lindsay so invested because now her brain is thinking, I had this. I had her in the first. I had her in the second. Somehow she managed in each game to come back. She can't do it again. You can see that desperation starting to come in because now Lindsay is present to what is. So quickly it shifted. Venus came out a woman on fire. Now they're tied 5-5. 5 games apiece. Venus goes ahead 6-5. Lindsay is playing with fear and desperation and the anguish. How is it that I'm losing this game? You hear the announcers talking. And, you know, it was so amazing. Venus had tied the game back up. But still, when they took a break, she put that towel over her head. And sometimes things that are happening in our lives can be so present, so close to us, where we can't get any separation. Where we forget that Spirit is in the house. And so we have to do something to separate ourselves. Just as Venus did, she used the towel. She went on to win Wimbledon. Everybody was shocked. It is one of the greatest women's tennis match of all times. And I loved what Venus said. They asked her, Venus, how did you do this? How did you come from behind? And this was so amazing. She didn't say, well, I came from behind by doing this. She said, I realized that all I had to do was win a point. I just had to win a point. So when she put that towel over her head, she blocked out all of what is and tuned in to the divine presence that was within her and hit a zone. Got into such a zone where it was just her playing with the infinite intelligence moving in and through her. One of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen. I was in tears from the joy of recognizing that I saw divinity unfolding through a tennis match. I saw what can happen when you stay connected. It didn't matter what Lindsay was doing. It didn't matter what she had done. It didn't matter what she was going to do. And so in those times when we feel that we're so caught in what is, when you wake up, because there has to be a moment of waking up. And in this article that I read, Venus went on to say that she knew before she began to play that this was hers. This was her championship. You know, there are times when we feel that I'm right, I'm on the journey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, then something happens. And we start to doubt ourselves. We start to think, well, maybe I'm not on the right track. Maybe I'm not supposed to be here. Maybe I'm not supposed to be there. And so everything becomes about all of the external. And one of the amazing things with athletes is that they're able to do it in the moment, which reminded me that it doesn't matter. I don't have to go to the mountaintop and sit and meditate for 15 hours. But I do have to have a practice that says when I'm out of alignment, do whatever I need to do to get in alignment now. to get back in the flow. And if that means I have to put a towel over my head and cut the world out, then that is the choice I get to make. She didn't have time, they get a little time to recover. But, she went immediately to, let me put this towel over my head. Let me take out everything that's distracting me. Powerful. So powerful. And this is within each of us. There is not a spot where this is not. Such an amazing, amazing time in our life that we are able to express this awakening of spirituality in ways unlike ever before. In any type of gathering, family or with friends or in our spiritual community, we are able to express this growing possibility of new divine connection. Joe Dispenza, I love his work. And I remember when I first discovered Joe Dispenza, it was about his journey of, he lived in, I'm not sure if he lived in Palm Springs, but he was in the Palm Springs Marathon and got hit by a car. And him coming from the medical field, the doctors were like, you're never going to walk again, you can get surgery. They were prompting him to get surgery, but there was something deeper calling him. At that moment, everything, and he talks about this, looked as though do the surgery, the higher probability, these are your friends, this is your field, these people know what they're talking about. But there was something else that called him. And it is through that journey of him learning to go within that he healed his body through the divine connection to be able to share with us a deeper understanding of that which we are. So all of these divine opportunities, whether it be through music, through art, through sports, through meditation, there is constant circulation of the universe showing us its beauty, showing us our power. And when we take the time to practice tapping in, tapping in, tapping in, we're not giving up anything. We're tapping into the greater divine. We are getting in the zone. I just thought that was such a phenomenal match. And it's, Lindsay Davenport, for her it was she was close to retirement at that time. The year before, she hadn't won a championship since 2000 and was contemplating retiring. But that year, 2005, she'd had a great run. And so, the competitive love that goes on, one of the other things about athletes, those that are great are able to shake off what appears to be a failure, what appears to be a struggle, like that, like that, like that, like that. They keep going within to the presence. They keep going to connect. And some nights it may not happen, but they don't give up and think this is not for me to do. I love it. I'm a huge fan of Kobe Bryant. And he was a great, great player and a great spiritual presence. And some nights, it was tough. He first half just couldn't shoot, wouldn't happen, it wasn't going on. But something would happen for him. He would click in a way. He would keep shooting. He wouldn't give up. He would do other things to help that vortex open for him, but he did not give up. Sometimes we give up too quick before the alignment happens. Not even whatever the thing is that you're trying to get, but sometimes we give up on getting connected with our divine source. We think, I'm tired, I've tried enough. And it's sometimes in that exhaustion when you surrender, it sucks you in. There is a knowingness. You know, watching Kobe, he always knew, oh, I'm going to score. He never had doubts about that maybe he'd have a night that he wouldn't score. He may not score as much as he did the night before, but he knew he was a great scorer and that he was going to score. That was an absolute in his mind. When we absolutely know that no matter what is going on in the we are divinity. We are the divine, unique emanations of spirit, and anything that we're going through, spirit is in it, and when we tap into that, the solution for that situation comes forth, be it from us or from someone else. There's always a solution. I have started having this prayer that when I see things in the world that trouble me, my prayer is, thank you, God, that I see that there is something that is calling forth right here. I know there is a solution, whether it comes through me or someone else. I know that it's available. I open my heart and my eyes and my ears to feel it, to see it, to know it, than to move on it. And I see in so many different ways things that are coming to help support our world live a better, cleaner life. As much as the chaos is happening, there's also all of this wonderful magnificence of people that have been tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and coming forth with solutions. Coming forth with new divine ideas that take us to a different space and place. Now, this last one that I will share with you, I'm from St. Louis, and my grandfather was a St. Louis Cardinals fan. He would sit on the porch with his transistor radio listening to the game. I didn't care for that. It was rare that I would sit out there with him and listen. But I always loved going to Busch Stadium. Peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jacks. But I was a full adult woman. The World Series, my St. Louis Cardinals playing against the Kansas City Royals. And I was actually here I was living in LA at that time. And this was 1985. The Cardinals were the team that year. They were incredible. In sports, everybody's, I don't know how anybody can beat them. They're just the best. They've got everything. It's boom, 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 boom. And so there was this anticipation that, yes, they're playing the Kansas City Royals, and they're all right, but they're not the Cardinals. They're not the St. Louis Cardinals. They're not going to beat the St. Louis Cardinals. That's not going to happen. And yes, that first game, Cardinals took care of business. Second game, took care of business. They were in St. Louis. Now, this third game, they go to Kansas City to play. It's a donut, 000. Then finally, I think it, what was it? Maybe right around the eighth inning, the Cardinals get a hit, get a run. It's 1-0. So we are 3 outs away from winning the World Series. It's done, baby. It's over. The Cardinals are the world champions. There was a play made at first base. They call it the call. The call. The umpire called the Kansas City player safe. And yeah, it appeared that he wasn't safe, but at that time they didn't have replay, not for the umpires like they do now. So all of St. Louis people, we're going crazy. The players are going crazy. And what's so amazing for me was that I didn't know what I was looking at. I didn't fully understand. It wasn't until later that this game came, it played back in my head, the importance. And so as I'm watching it, I'm like everybody else, I'm upset at the umpire. This is a horrible call. How could you make this call? The Kansas City Royals went on to win that game. Everybody blamed the umpire. I did too. The next game, now the Cardinals were up now 2-1. All we need to win is one more game. Next game, Kansas City wins. Now it's tied 2-2. The whole series has changed now. The whole energy has changed. It went from this is a definite, the Cardinals got this, and then the call happened. And the entire energy shifted. Now, what I did not recognize at that point was that whomever the manager was, and I forget who the manager was, the players, they didn't win that game. But that game, they lost the World Series because they never recovered. And whomever the manager was or the people around could not get the players to shift their awareness. Have you had those moments where you weren't able to shift your awareness? And so whatever you were caught in, you were stayed in, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the Cardinals lost the World Series. And still to today, there are people that blame the call. But I have come to understand when I realize that when I give away my connection, when I give away my thinking to a situation, to a story, to an outside circumstance, I give my power away. And when I give it away, I don't have control. I'm not participating from my connection. I'm participating from the world. And the energy shifted that whole series where it was no longer a guarantee. The Cardinals became the team struggling, anxious, fearful. And we lost the World Series. It is such an incredible presence to peek behind the veil. There was this story written about the Buddha that said the Buddha struggled to come to grips with his failure to find contentment and happiness. Only when he gave up his quest for these things and embraced suffering as the intraceable nature of existence did he paradoxically find spiritual renewal and enlightenment or nirvana. Giving up the outside world, not turning and putting our head in the sand, but giving up the experience, the situation, the what is from the is place, to be able to hear to the guidance, to be able to tap into the flow, to be able to rise consciously above. And so I ask you this question: is joy enough? Is peace and nirvana, is tapping into your divine essence, is it enough? Is it worth the practice? Is it worth your time to still your mind to recognize the beauty and glory of all that is? Is that important to you? When you answer that question, you will also answer for yourself the importance of tapping in, the importance of divine connection. I am so grateful and thankful for each and every one of you that participate here at Universal Spirit Center, that you share your divine awareness, you bring your consciousness, you bring your love, you bring your tithes. We are absolutely blessed by the magnificence of your presence. Here is a few ways that you can give to Universal Spirit Center. And as well, our QR code is right there. If you are watching via your computer or on your iPad, with your iPad you have to do a screenshot, and then in your camera you can click on the QR code. If you're watching it from your TV or computer, you can click on the QR code directly, or if you're watching on your phone, you can take a screenshot and then click on. We are starting our divine conscious giving program, which is a fabulous way of recognizing the abundance of the universe, recognizing the abundance that's in you, and also participating in things that you love to support, as we are a very giving community. We give out in so many ways through our Spirit in Action, our Racial Equality Project, through our Sunday gatherings, our Wednesday awakenings and connections, through the breath work that we have at the last Wednesday of every month, through our child ministry that we have, when all the beautiful children that are participating, the families that come. So the divine abundance that comes in, we definitely share back out through all the things that we participate. So you'll see on our webpage the things that we're doing, and we're kicking it off this coming Sunday. I hope that you online participate just as well and decide you're giving this to Universal Spirit Center, because we're in this together. We all do it together. It is Black History Month. As we celebrate Black History Month, this is Ronald E. McNair. Dr. McNair was an astronaut and did go up on Challenger. There were over, I think, 35 people that tried out, and he was one that was chosen. Unfortunately, Challenger was destroyed there in space. But this divine scientist, the Dr. McNair, gave so much for the time that he was here. And we are blessed to know and appreciate him. So, a celebration to Ronald E. McNair for all that he has done. We are grateful. Well, I want to thank you again for joining us here at Universal Spirit Center on Wednesdays. Come again. We're always growing, expanding. If you have thoughts, questions, comments, drop me an email. Gino@universalspiritcenter.org. That's GINO. I thank you for being here. Whenever you're here, know that you are a blessing and a light, and it is a joy to take this journey with you. Peace and blessings.